Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome and thank you for joining today. My name is Brooke Basie, and I am the Marketing Coordinator at Estimating Edge. Today, Ryan Bogert, who is the Director of Product and Customer Success, will be covering how to navigate project conditions in version 12, followed by Mike Mao, the Training and Support Manager, will be answering any questions you might have at the end. Before we get started, we have a couple of housekeeping items. All lines have been muted, but we will answer questions after the webinar. To ask questions, enter them in the question window. We will answer these at the end. Ryan, next screen, please. I will send you an email that has a recording link. The recording will also be available to watch on demand on our website. When you leave the webinar today, a pop-up window will open with a 3-question survey. One of the questions is what topics you'd like to see in upcoming webinars. We'd love to hear your feedback. Thank you everyone for joining. Ryan, let's get started.
All right, thank you, Brooke, and welcome everybody. Thanks for joining us today for the Project Conditions webinar. So what are project conditions? Project conditions allow you to set up a condition one time and use it anywhere inside of the section of the bid. You're basically creating a source page that contains all conditions to be referenced throughout the entire section. So currently, if you are copying conditions from one page and then pasting them into other pages to use in other floor plans throughout the project, then project conditions will definitely help you to reduce the amount of time it takes to set up and take off the bid. They'll also help when it comes to the need to edit a condition that's been used throughout an entire project as well. All right, so one thing to point out here real quick before we get started with the demo, we do have a new option that allows you to turn project conditions page on by default for every single bid that you create. So if this ends up being a feature that you do use on a regular basis, you'll want to go ahead and set this up. So under the options menu, if you select preferences and then go into program features, there is an option here under the top section called default to project conditions page. What that's going to do is automatically create a project conditions page in every single bid that you create. We'll see how that works here in just a moment. The example that I'll be going through today will be specific to drywall, but project conditions can be used for any of our trades, any of our interior trades, as well as roofing and fireproofing, which we recently sent out for version 12. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and get started with a new bid. The beginning process of setting up a bid really does not change at all. You're still going to go ahead and create a bid the same way you always have, and we're going to, in this case, add images just like we normally would for any other bid as well. So I'm going to go ahead and just pull in a set of floor plans here that we'll use for our takeoff today. I do have, I believe there's 6 pages here that we're going to be taking a look at. So we're going to go ahead and create pages using all of these background images. For those that haven't seen this feature, hopefully you've all used it, but we do have now the ability to create multiple pages at one time. So we can hit the select all button. It's going to select all 6 of these images. I can then click manage selected images, and now I can say go ahead and create a page with all of these. And in this case, I know that there's the excuse me, a scale for these drawings is an 1/8 inch. I've verified that everything is good. So I'm going to go ahead and set the scale for them right now. Once I click save over on the right hand side, I've got my 6 pages ready to go. So I'm going to go ahead and click the continue button. So again, up to this point, nothing's really changed as far as what you would normally do to start a new bid. As we start moving through the bid, so I'm at my scenarios breadcrumb. If I move forward to sections and then one more step forward into pages, here's now where we're going to start seeing the changes. All right, so when I clicked on pages, it automatically brought me to this page called project conditions. This is the page that was created based on me having project conditions set by default, that first option that I showed. Couple differences in here. If you look up at this section, we do have now 2 icons. The one we're currently looking at is project conditions. So the PC, anywhere you see PC throughout this project is going to stand for project conditions. Next to it, to the left of it, we have the pages icon. If I click the pages icon, that's going to take me into more of my traditional view, the way that the Edge has always operated until project conditions was introduced. So this is kind of the standard traditional way to view your pages. So you can see the 6 pages that I created using my background images are all here. What I'm going to do now is move back to project conditions. So what we're essentially doing is going into the project conditions page. This is going to become our source page for all conditions that are going to be used throughout this entire section. So I'm going to move forward into project conditions. And again, this step is really very similar. It would be just like bringing in conditions to a normal page, except for the big difference here is we're going to go ahead and bring in all conditions that we need for the entire bid, for the entire job. I'm just going to go ahead and make this a fairly small list here just for our demonstration purposes today, but this could be 2 conditions, it could be 200 conditions, depending on how many scenarios that you have for different types of condition within the bid. I'm going to go ahead and also bring in a general conditions listing here, just so I can give an example of how to bring in conditions that are not quantifiable. They have entered quantities like our general conditions and some other types of conditions. All right, so I'm just going to say for now that's good. That's all I needed. I'm going to go ahead and hit add to page and bring these conditions into my bid. All right. So again, we do need to go ahead and set up the conditions. We still set them up, just like we would in any other type of job. So I'm just going to say this one, I'm going to call wall type A. I don't need to make any changes to it. I'm happy with the way it's set up. It's good to go. So I'm just going to hit OK. I am going to go ahead and copy and insert this wall type A. When I do hit copy and insert from the project conditions page, there is a new option in here called copy pages used. I'm not going to talk about that right this minute. We will cover that here later on. So for now, I'm just going to hit the copy button, and it's going to make basically a carbon copy. I'm going to go ahead and change this to wall type B, and we'll just say maybe this is going to be a 25 gauge, and it's only 10 feet high. Obviously, whatever changes you need to make, you can do that. And again, you can do that as many times as you need to get all conditions set up for the entire project. For our purposes today, to move on here, I'm going to go ahead and say, okay, that's it. That's all I needed for this particular bid. So I'm going to move on to the takeoff screen. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and pull up the takeoff screen. Once we get out to the takeoff screen, we are going to see a new change. Again, this is one of the things that has changed, and that's this bid tree. All right, so we now have the bid tree broken into 2 different sections. The rule of thumb here is whichever section we show on the right-hand side of the bid tree is our active section. That's what we're currently working in. If I wanted to switch that and I wanted my pages, my normal page view to be my active section, I can just come over here and click on the page header, and it'll flop those 2 with each other. So now pages, my normal page view, as you can see, the background image is now showing is active, but I want to go ahead and move back to project conditions. So just kind of pay attention to that. And for those that are concerned about more space being taken up on the drawing screen, this entire bid tree can be moved, undocked and moved into a completely separate monitor if you want to be able to expand your whole takeoff. All right, so we're now at the step where we're going to start quantifying the project conditions. All right, so the first step to do that is to have project conditions on the right side of my bid tree. So I've already got that. I then go ahead and select the first condition that I want to start drawing. So in that case, I'm just going to say wall type A. My next step is to select the page that I wanted to start drawing wall type A onto. To do that, I'm going to move here into my drawing pane. And this box right at the top that says choose page is going to allow me to click a drop down. And there are the 6 pages, my normal pages that I've created for this bid. So I can go ahead and say I want to start drawing page 1. Page 1 is now shown as my background image. And since I already set my scale, it is set down here at the bottom. If you didn't set the scale at the beginning, the normal message will pop up there asking you to go ahead and set your scale to get started. So at this point, I'm ready to start drawing wall type A. And when I do start drawing wall type A, there's a few things that are going to happen over here in the bid tree. So let me go ahead and just put some quantity in here. So notice what happened here. I get wall type A listed with quantity in parentheses. So I've drawn so far 32.5 lineal feet of wall type A. And where I've drawn that is on page 1. So it automatically placed page 1 below wall type A, simply telling me that condition has been used in this page. And then over on the pages side, you can see that wall type A has been added as a condition for page number 1. So I mentioned earlier at the very beginning that this really is something that would be used in place of copy and paste. Well, you can kind of see that's exactly what's been done. We've created a copy of wall type A from the source, the project conditions page. We've now pasted it onto the page that it needs to be on, which is now referred to as the reference condition. All right, so as I start or continue drawing quantity in here for wall type A, you're going to see that the quantity will continue to update over on the tree. So at this point, it's kind of normal takeoff, for that particular condition. We'll go ahead and say that's all I needed. Currently, that 92 lineal feet for wall type A. I'm going to go ahead and click on wall type B. So now I'm simply moving to the next condition. Really not much different than your normal process of quantifying on a particular page. I'll go ahead and put some quantity in for wall type B. And at this point, again, it's just kind of repeating that process as many times as we need to for that specific page. All right, so let me go ahead and just get some more quantity in here for all of these conditions. I've got some counts. We'll put in a few of these as well. Obviously, I'm not doing a full takeoff today, so we'll keep things as quick as possible. All right, so we'll say for now, that's it. That's all I needed for taking off on this page. I'm now ready to move on to the next page and start producing takeoff on that page. So to do that, I got a couple options. I'm going to go ahead and say I want to start quantifying wall type A on the next page. So the first step I'm going to do is click wall type A in my project conditions column. And then I simply come up here and select my next page. So I go ahead and say I want to move to page 2. Again, my scale's already set, so I'm ready to start drawing. And notice what happened there underneath wall type A on my bid tree. I now have a new page listed. All right, so it's now saying that wall type A exists in both page 1, and on page 1 I have 92 lineal feet of wall type A. It now also exists in page 2, and I have currently 63 feet of wall type A on page 2, which gives me a grand total of 155 lineal feet of wall type A so far across my entire project. All right, so that project conditions listing is going to continue to give you a running tally of the total quantity for each one of these individual conditions. And again, if we look over on the page side of the bid tree, as soon as I draw in some quantity for that particular condition, it's now added that condition to page number 2. So it's now telling me I've got both wall type A and wall type B for page 2. And as I move down through my list, if I go ahead and continue drawing some more, it's going to add that metal furred wall in there as well. Now, another thing to pay attention to here, as I click on my next condition in the project conditions listing, notice that at the top of the drawing pane, I do not currently see my drawing properties. So the color, in this case, it's a count. So the count style or the line style, the line thickness, all that stuff is currently not showing here. My only option would be currently to move to another page or use these buttons, which we'll talk about here in a second. But as soon as I quantify that condition, as soon as I go ahead and draw something for it, now the mode has changed, and I do see that I can come in here and change my color, my count style, whatever it is that I wanted to change for that count, for that length, for that area. As soon as I've drawn quantity, added quantity for that, I now have the ability to go ahead and change that. All right, so the one thing I don't have the ability to do in view right now is to switch to another page. So in order to get that page drop down back, if I'm currently sitting in a condition that I've quantified, what I need to do is then click on the PC to switch the view to the project conditions page control. As soon as I click on that PC button, now I'm back to this mode. So now I can come in here and say, okay, I'm ready to move to page number 3. When I do that, I still stay on the same condition. So I'm still highlighted on that column condition. I've moved to page number 3. So I can go ahead and start quantifying any of these conditions that I want for page number 3. All right, so we've got a couple of different ways that you can kind of maneuver through and move from page to page. Again, using as I click on a new condition, that's when the choose page option is automatically going to be there. Once I've actually drawn in some quantity for that condition, to get back to that same page drop down, I need to first click on the PC page, and then I can go ahead and move to a page that I want to. All right, so there really is a third way to move, maneuver through pages as well. Now that I have 3 pages listed here for several of my conditions, that's another method that I can use. So I'm currently sitting on page 2. You can see that it's highlighted. If I wanted to move back to page 1 on wall type A, I can go ahead and actually click here where it says page 1. And notice it's changed the background image. So now I'm highlighted on wall type A on page number 1. So I can go ahead and continue quantifying more for wall type A at that point. Now, what happens if I don't have a condition in my project conditions list that I need? Obviously, we always have the option of coming back here to our project conditions page and adding additional project conditions. But what if I wanted to do that from the takeoff? Well, we definitely have that option as well. So in this case, I'm highlighted on wall type A, the condition. So all I can do at this point is draw some quantity for wall type A, and I have all my tools for that specific condition listed here. If I click up one more level to the conditions header, notice that this drawing, the tools that are available now have changed. And one of them that's available is add conditions. So I can go ahead and click that insert button, and I'll go ahead and say, I wanted a box header to be added to the project conditions page. All right, so it's going to move it to the bottom of the list. I can always move that up or down if I need to, up if I need to. But at this point, I can now click on it, and I'll just say we've got some header used there. Again, as I go ahead and draw that in, I'm getting my quantity shown for each one of those. So again, you can simply click the conditions header and add conditions directly to your project conditions page at this point. So one other thing I want to show here on the takeoff screen before we move off takeoff is I brought in these general conditions. All right, so far what you've seen is in order to move a condition from project conditions from the source and move it into a reference page, we actually just go in and add quantity for that particular condition. But what if I have a condition that doesn't accept measurements? So I've got this drywall condition, drywall general condition that it doesn't allow me to draw anything. So when I click on it, you're seeing there it says does not accept measurements. That's because it's an entered condition, so it automatically is turned on as soon as I bring it in. But I need to still get it into one of my pages. All right, in order to do that, what I would do, and this would be the same, I'm just using general conditions as an example. If there's any other type of condition that you have out there that's entered, in order to get it moved from project conditions into one of your pages, you simply come in and click the add to page button. All right, so when I click add to page, it's now moved drywall general condition equipment over here. I was highlighted on page number 1. So it's now moved it into page number 1. All right, so again, that's what that add to page is for, is simply getting quantity or getting a condition moved from project conditions directly to the page that you need it to be moved into. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and minimize my takeoff screen here, and we're gonna move back into project conditions and show some more features of this particular functionality. All right, so I'm gonna move back into my project conditions, condition listing. One of the things I mentioned at the very beginning was project conditions are going to allow you to make edits to a condition and they'll flow through to the entire project. Anywhere that source project's been used throughout the entire bid, it will be making the change that I'm about to make everywhere that it's been used. So similar to our condition schedule, if anybody's used that, but a little bit different. It's a little bit more dynamic, and certainly easier to use. It's as easy as simply opening up one of these condition properties, and let's just say for this wall type A, maybe I need to change it to a 25 gauge 6-inch wide stud and track framing. That's the only change I'm going to make. So wall type A, I went to 25 gauge from 20 and 6-inch from 3 5/8. If I just hit OK here, I've now changed that condition everywhere that it's been used in the entire project. All right, so if I come back and view my normal pages, so again, I'm clicking my page breadcrumb and then the pages icon. I'm now looking at my normal pages. So as I double click or click my arrow to move forward, here's my wall type A and all of my other project conditions. And notice that they do have the PC icon next to them. That's just simply telling you that this condition originated from a source project condition. And it is telling me that any change that I make to it, or anything that I do at this point, I am changing the project condition. But if I go ahead and open this up, again, I'm now in my actual page, my normal page view. Notice that it did change to 25 gauge 6-inch. So every single spot that I used that wall type A, it went ahead and made that change for me across the entire section of the bid. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and move it back to 3 5/8 20 gauge. I'm in a normal page. I'm actually opening the reference condition, but because it's a project condition, it's changed now back to the way I had it. So again, if I move back to my pages breadcrumb and go into project conditions and go ahead and move in and look at my project conditions, I'm now able to open wall type A and see that it did in fact move back to 20 gauge 3 5/8. The change was made again all the way across the entire project. All right, so that brings up a big point here. Because project conditions are a source, everything within that condition is going to stay with that condition throughout the entire section, including pricing, labor, production rates. So all of my items that are contained within wall type A, when I go to my labor screen, let's say, they're all going to be lumped together. I don't have the ability to say change, just one of the walls for one of my pages. I can't change the production rate for that. Specifically, if I change the production rate, it's going to update it for anywhere that wall type A has been used. So in that case, you do have the ability to come back in. Let's say I've got on this first floor or page number 1. There's an area where access is difficult. Insert whatever scenario that you want in there where I know that I need to make a change to that specific instance. So wall type A throughout the entire project is going to be set at 1 production rate, but I have this one scenario where I need to maybe slow down the production rate because of my access to the room, whatever it might be. So what I've done now is I've moved back into a normal page. And I just want to point something out here. The header of the breadcrumb is very important to pay attention to. It's always going to tell you exactly where you are in the project at any time. So I'm sitting at the condition listing for page number 1. I'm just going to pop back in here real quick, the project conditions, just to show you what that looks like. So when I'm in my project conditions page, or condition listing, it's going to tell me up here it is for project conditions. So again, looking at those headers is definitely an important thing. So I'm going to move back in here to page 1's conditions, and I'm going to use the example of, I want to take wall type A, and inside of this, in one area of page number 1, I'm going to quantify some wall type A, but I want to have the ability to set different production rates for it. All right, so I have the ability to come in here in the page, in the reference page here, and click copy and insert for wall type A. It's going to ask me the normal questions that you always see with a copy and insert. In this case, I do not want to copy any of the quantities, so I'm just going to say copy. And I'm just going to call this wall type A1. Not going to change anything. I want the setting to be exactly the same. I've now created a copy of wall type A, but notice it does not have the PC next to it. All right, so anytime I create a copy of a project condition within the referenced page, I'm now creating a copy that is just on this page. That is not a project condition. It's not going to be available for me back at the project conditions page. This is for this page only. So now if I were to go ahead and say move to the takeoff screen on wall type A1, I don't know, just give an example here. We'll put some quantity in for that. All right, so we'll say that's good. So I now have 45 lineal feet for wall type A1. And if I want to, I can go ahead and mark that condition, or mark that condition, pop out to my my pricing or my labor screen and make whatever change. So let's just say I know I need to, just bump that down, my framing down half of what it was, or whatever the change might be there. I can make those changes, and I'm only affecting that one condition now, not the project condition page. All right, so definitely an important piece of the project conditions is that they share the items across the entire section of that bid. So any changes that you make to one is definitely going to be affecting all of the others. All right. On the topic of copy and insert, I wanted to show another nice tool in here. If I move back to my project conditions, so let's say whoever I'm bidding the job for comes back and maybe gives me an option. I'll just say it's a either or. So maybe wall type A could be 20 gauge stream 5. It could be 25 gauge 6-inch. Those are the two options, just to give a simple example. All right, so I've already taken off 254 lineal feet for wall type A across the entire project. That's through multiple pages, but imagine that's on dozens of pages on a typical bid that you guys will be working on. In order to go change that, there's a lot of work that would be done there. With project conditions, I have the ability to simply come in here, hit copy and insert on my project condition, and this is where copy pages used will come into play. I'm just going to copy the quantities as well, because I am trying to make a complete carbon copy of this particular condition that's going to be used throughout the entire bid. Everywhere that I had wall type A, I now want to have this, I'm going to call it wall type A2. So that's where the copy pages used comes into play, is it's going to place this condition anywhere that I've already used wall type A. All right, so when I click copy, I'm going to go ahead and we'll rename this wall type A2. I'll go ahead and change that to my 25 and 6 and hit OK. All right, so currently all I've done is made a copy of that condition. And what I haven't done, if I move into one of my pages, I haven't done the either or option. So notice here I've got wall type A at the top with 123 lineal feet on page 1. I've also got wall type A2 with 123 feet on page 1. All right. Both of them are currently turned on, and that wasn't what I wanted. So I'm going to move back here to my project condition page. And in this case, I'm going to say wall type A, I'm going to turn off. I don't want that option anymore. I want wall type A2 to be my new option with the total of 254 feet throughout the entire project. Now, if I pop back into that same page one, you're going to notice that wall type A has been turned off. So now I've eliminated wall type A as the option, and I'm turning on wall type A2. And the same thing if I go back and kind of do the opposite of that. Now they come back and say, actually, we wanted the first option. So I simply turn wall type A on, wall type A2 off. And again, if I move back into a normal page, it's going to reflect that change. So now A is off, A2 is turned. I'm sorry, A is on, A2 is off. In addition to that, the kind of the last step of this, if I now want to delete a condition throughout an entire project, so I no longer need the wall type A2 that I had turned off. So now I'm done with it. I no longer need it. I know I don't need it. I'm going to delete it from the entire project, including all instances of where it was used. And again, it could be dozens and dozens of pages where you've used that. I can simply come in here and delete wall type A2. I've left wall type A. And again, if I pop back into my normal page view, I no longer have wall type A2. I only have wall type A. So a lot of maneuvering there, but the great thing is again, imagine this thing's over just dozens and dozens of pages, and how much work that would have been to go turn on and off each one of those. Now you can do it literally with a click of a button. So great new feature there. All right, and the last thing I wanted to show before we get to some questions here, if I go back to project conditions, again, the quantities that I'm seeing here for each one of these conditions are the quantities throughout the entire project or the section in this case. And a lot of times we've gotten requests in the past that people want to be able to see very quickly, how much of this wall type A do I have in my entire project? And rather than having to go to every single page and manually calculate it, you've now got it. So I've got 254 lineal feet of wall type A. And we actually have a report that'll show that to you as well. If I go ahead and go into my reports, I've got a report in here I called Consolidated Condition Summary, which is a new report type. If I go ahead and preview that report, it's going to give me the same setup that I just saw. So every condition that's contained within my bid, including non-project conditions. So you can see the wall type A-1 is there as well. But this is every condition, every unique condition that exists in my bid is going to be listed here. So I can see that wall type A does in fact show my 254 lineal feet. Again, that's across the entire project. So you've got a nice quick little snapshot there of exactly how much you have of each one of those different condition types. Many of you probably won't see Consolidated Condition Summary as a report option for you. As I mentioned, it's a new report we added a few releases ago, and if you need it, if you want to get that, you can simply click the new report button, and it is the last report type that's on your list there. So you can go ahead and select that and build in the columns that you would want to use for it. And obviously, if you have any questions with that, as always, you can contact our technical support department for any assistance getting that going. All right, so that's a fairly quick run through of project conditions. I'm going to go ahead and pass it over to Mike for any questions that the audience might have.
Great, Ryan. Thank you so much. Let's get started with one of the audience questions. We've got Joseph Bongiorno, and we kind of touched on this, but I think this could be a common question. If you have different deck heights on different floors, how do you change the particular deck height for a different floor?
Yeah, so good question. It would be very similar to the the way that I created those first conditions, you would simply have another common condition for that project condition. Sorry, for that scenario. So I would just simply come in here to wall type B, and I can copy that and change whatever information that I need to change here, whether I'm framing full height or not. I can put in there wall type B, and in some cases, you might have to just reference, that this is my 15-foot high wall type B, or whatever description might give you that information. So it's simply a copy and paste. You've now got it as a common condition. So if you happen to have that same deck height on another page as well, you can use that just like any other condition.
Great, thanks, Ryan. We got one more question from Jason Tolbert. How do you add a page? And I'm guessing this is maybe after the fact, so you got the first one set up, but so how would you go about adding another page and getting it all to kind of work together?
Oh, okay, sure. There's several different ways in the Edge to add pages, but if I'm back at my pages listing, maybe in the first step that I showed you, I brought in other drawings, other blueprint plans that I just didn't create pages with. So I certainly have the ability to come back in here to the manage images option, and I can either add an image at this point, or maybe I want to view one of these existing and create a page using them. So I can preview that background image. I can go ahead and click the add to page, and it's going to ask me which scenario, which section, depending on the setup of my job, I would go ahead and change that if needed to a different section. In this case, I'm just going to click save and close out, and I now have page 7 listed here. So if I go back to my takeoff, I'm now going to see that page 7 is listed here. I'm going to move back to project conditions, and now if I go to wall type A, click my drop down, I've got page 7 listed there as well, and I can go ahead and start adding quantity.
Awesome, good job. We have another question. They are coming in quite frequently here. It's great. Mike Monahan has asked, do you have to turn on the feature for project conditions before you start the job, or will it exist anyway, and can you turn it on during a job?
Great question, Mike. Thanks for that one. I did forget that. So the answer is no. You certainly do not have to have this turned on to default project conditions. You can add a project conditions page at any time. All right. So to do that, you would simply come back here to your pages breadcrumb. You do want to make sure you're on your project conditions page, and you simply add a page. We've added a feature in here called project conditions page. So if this is in fact going to be your project conditions page, you want to make sure that you go ahead and select that, and you can name this anything that you want. It does not have to be project conditions. You just simply have to indicate that it is a project conditions page, and you do have the option of changing the color of the icon, of the PC icon, so you can easily see. If you do have the ability to have multiple project conditions pages in your bid. So, if you wanted to separate, let's say, walls and ceilings for the drywall guys, you certainly have the ability to do that. So I can come in here and I'm just going to add one quick example. So I've now got 2 project conditions pages, and if I go back to my takeoff, you can see I've actually got a whole nother level up here. So I've got project conditions 2 up here. I've got the condition listed there, and I certainly have the ability to go ahead and start quantifying from that secondary project conditions page. So.
Great, thank you. A question came in from Scott Orchard. I'm seeing this in the drawing screen. When you have a condition that is used in 20 or 30 different pages, it's going to get a long rollout of all those places it's used. Is there a way to hide that so you don't see it?
Yeah, you can.
Perfect.
Yeah, you can definitely minimize that section or that condition. Sorry. So you're now just seeing the condition itself, not the pages that it's contained within.
All right, great, thanks. We've got a couple more questions before we're going to have to cut off, but Brent Gorin has asked, where would you use the condition schedule versus the project conditions?
To be completely honest, I wouldn't use the condition schedule at this point. If you, I mentioned it at the beginning, really an easy rule of thumb. If you have to copy a condition from one page and paste it into another page, you should be using project conditions. It's really as simple as that. It certainly is. I'm going to. I feel, and I think as a company we feel, going to really eliminate the need for the condition schedule. So again, if you're copying and pasting, really project conditions is what you want to be using.
Awesome. Thank you again. I've got a question from Melissa Wagner. Does this get rid of the common conditions page?
It doesn't. So common conditions is really used for taking off multiple conditions in one shot. So an example I always give would be maybe a bathroom. You've got the same bathroom that exists multiple times throughout the bid. You can create the conditions that exist within that bathroom. It could be different wall types, maybe a ceiling, maybe a soffit, whatever conditions would be contained within that that bathroom. You add all of those as a common condition. It now becomes its own set of conditions that with a single click of the mouse, you can now say, I need all of those conditions here in this bathroom. So that's really the use for common conditions, where project conditions is really more individual conditions. You don't have the ability to lump conditions together. It's one condition at a time.
All right, great. Thank you. We may have room for one or two more questions. Phil Cordova asks, can general conditions be separated per page?
Yes. So you can bring general conditions into each individual page if you want to. Instead of having them as part of project conditions, you can simply come into. I know in some cases a lot of guys will actually have a general conditions page created, but if you do want them to be in a normal page, you can come back to your pages breadcrumb, go to the pages button, and then just move forward into whichever page you want those general conditions to be in. Simply add it from the database. I'll just bring subs in for an example. So I've now got subcontractors in here, which is right now you can see it does not have the PC icon next to it. So it's just in this page, and I can copy that into another page if I need to, or I can bring it into another page and make changes to it if it's specific to that page. So there's a few different ways to maneuver through with the general conditions.
Perfect. Thank you, Ryan. Well, that is the last of the questions that we have time for today. We appreciate all the questions. If we were not able to get to your question, or if you have other questions about this topic, please email or call us, and we'll be happy to assist you. Thank you again for attending, and have a great day.